The morning sun spilled softly over St. Alban's Academy, one of London's most prestigious schools. The gates gleamed, polished daily, and rows of chauffeur-driven cars lined the street like trophies. Inside, laughter echoed, the privileged kind, the kind that never had to worry about bills or broken buses. Among the students sat Sophie Langford, the only daughter of Richard Langford, a media billionaire known for building empires, and for rarely smiling. Sophie carried that same sharpness, confident, immaculate, untouchable. Her designer uniform fit perfectly, and her phone buzzed constantly with messages from girls who followed her like shadows. In the middle of this world walked a man who didn't belong. Mr. Callum Price, the new English teacher, had kind eyes and a soft voice that could quiet a room without raising his tone. His jacket was old, his shoes a little scuffed, a quiet contrast to the polished wealth around him. He began his lesson that Monday morning, standing before a room of yawning teenagers. Mr. Price, smiling gently. "Good morning, everyone. Today's assignment, write about gratitude, something or someone you're thankful for." A few groans filled the air. Sophie rolled her eyes dramatically. "Sophie, gratitude? Sir, we're not in primary school." Mr. Price chuckled softly. "Mr. Price. Then you'll have no trouble writing something profound, Miss Langford." Laughter rippled through the class. Sophie's cheeks flushed, not with embarrassment, but irritation. "Sophie, maybe some of us don't have much to be grateful for." Mr. Price tilted his head, studying her. "Mr. Price, maybe some of us just haven't looked hard enough." The class went silent. Sophie leaned back in her chair, lips curling into a smirk. "Sophie, easy for you to say, sir. You probably find happiness in instant coffee and bus rides." A few students gasped. The air thickened. Mr. Price didn't respond immediately. He simply looked down at his hands for a moment, then met her eyes again. Mr. Price, quietly. "You're right, Sophie. Some of us do, because sometimes that's enough." He turned back to the board and continued the lesson. But the room wasn't the same anymore. Sophie had crossed a line she didn't fully understand. Later that day, as the bell rang, Sophie saw him in the courtyard, helping a student pick up fallen papers, smiling gently as rain began to fall. His hair was damp, his jacket soaked, yet he didn't seem to care. She almost felt sorry. Almost. That night at dinner, Richard Langford scrolled through his phone as Sophie recounted the incident with amusement. "Sophie, he's so odd, Dad. He wears the same coat every day. You'd think someone teaching our school could afford better." Richard barely looked up. "Richard, as long as he teaches, it doesn't matter what he wears." Sophie frowned. Her father never defended anyone, especially not someone beneath their status. But as days passed, she began noticing things. Mr. Price staying late after class, talking kindly to struggling students. Teachers whispering about him, how he worked nights at a local community center. How his wife had passed away years ago. Something about that stayed with her, though she'd never admit it. Then one rainy Thursday morning, the headmistress entered the classroom with somber eyes. "Headmistress. Class, Mr. Price won't be in today. He was in an accident last night. A car struck him while he was cycling home." Sophie's pen froze mid-sentence. The room fell silent. It was strange how quickly life could shift. One moment, Sophie was complaining about homework. The next, she was staring at an empty teacher's desk that suddenly felt too quiet. The days passed slowly. A replacement teacher came in, strict and cold, but nobody listened. Everyone kept asking when Mr. Price would return. During lunch, Sophie overheard two teachers whispering in the corridor. Teacher 1. "Hospital bills are piling up. He doesn't have family nearby." Teacher 2. "He's too proud to ask for help. Volunteers with children every weekend, even when he can barely afford the train fare." Their voices faded as they walked away, but Sophie stood frozen, guilt crawling up her spine. That afternoon, she found herself scrolling through her phone until she stumbled upon a small fundraising page. A photo of Mr. Price smiling beside a group of kids at the community center filled the screen. The caption read, "Help Mr. Price recover. A teacher who's given so much. Now needs us." Her thumb hovered over the donate button. Her weekly allowance could cover the target amount 5 times over, but she hesitated. Later that evening, she mentioned it at home. "Sophie, Dad, my teacher's in hospital. There's a fundraiser." Richard, barely glancing up. "I'll have my assistant send a check." "Sophie, no, I want to do it." Her father looked up for the first time, curious. "Richard, you?" "Sophie, yeah, I think I should." He studied her expression for a long moment, then nodded. "Richard, do what feels right." That night, Sophie quietly transferred $10,000 to the fundraiser, marking it as anonymous. Then, for reasons she couldn't explain, she took the tube to the East End Community Center, the one mentioned on the page. The building was old and small but alive, kids laughing, volunteers sorting food boxes. A woman at the desk smiled when she entered. "Volunteer. You must be one of Mr. Price's students. He always talks about you lot." Sophie blinked. "He talks about us?" "Volunteer, all the time. Said teaching gives him purpose. He used to bring his daughter here before she passed." Sophie froze. "Volunteer. Emily, her name was. Sweet girl. He says helping children helps him feel close to her again." Tears welled in Sophie's eyes before she could stop them. She left the center quietly, her chest heavy with something she hadn't felt before. Remorse. The next morning at school, the headmistress announced that Mr. Price's surgery had been successful, thanks to the community's generosity. "And to one anonymous donor," she added, "who made a remarkable contribution." The class buzzed with curiosity. Sophie kept her head down, her heart pounding. 2 weeks later, the school assembly hall was filled with chatter. Word had spread. Mr. Price was returning. As he walked in, cane in hand, the students stood and clapped. The usually reserved man smiled, a little tired but genuine. Sophie felt her throat tighten. He thanked everyone for their support, his voice soft but steady. "Mr. Price. I've always believed that kindness is a lesson best learned through example. And now, I've been reminded of it myself." His eyes swept the room briefly, and for a moment landed on Sophie. She looked away quickly. Later that day, as the last students left the classroom, Sophie lingered by the door. Her pulse raced. "Sophie." "Sir?" Mr. Price looked up, surprised. "Yes, Sophie?" She hesitated. "I just wanted to say I'm glad you're okay." He nodded with a warm, knowing smile. "Thank you," she swallowed hard. "And I'm sorry for what I said that day. It was cruel." Mr. Price studied her for a moment, then smiled again, gently. "Mr. Price, apology accepted. We all say things we don't mean until life gives us reason to mean them." Her eyes shimmered with tears. "You don't deserve what happened to you." Mr. Price, softly. "Sometimes hardship isn't a punishment, Sophie. It's a reminder of what really matters." She nodded slowly, wiping a tear before he could see. As she turned to leave, he spoke again. "Mr. Price. By the way, the hospital told me about the donation, the one that paid for my surgery." Sophie froze. "Oh, I don't know what you mean," he smiled knowingly. "Mr. Price, that's all right. I never said I wanted to know. But thank you, whoever it was." Her lips trembled. She gave a small nod, and for the first time, she smiled, not the practiced one for photos, but something real, something fragile. The following week, Sophie stood at the front of the assembly, holding a paper titled, "What Gratitude Means to Me." Her voice trembled slightly as she began. Gratitude isn't about things or money. It's about people. People who show up, who care, who teach us even when we don't think we need teaching. Sometimes the ones we look down on are the ones holding us up. Her classmates were silent. Even the headmistress blinked back emotion. When she finished, the hall erupted in applause. Mr. Price clapped too, smiling with quiet pride. After the assembly, Sophie walked outside into the crisp spring air. The sky was pale blue, the kind that hinted at new beginnings. Her father's car was waiting at the gate. But for once, she didn't rush. Instead, she watched Mr. Price help a younger student carry her heavy bag. The same calm kindness as always. For the first time in her life, Sophie understood what real strength looked like. It wasn't in wealth, or power, or prestige. It was in grace. As she climbed into the car, her father glanced at her curiously. "Richard, everything all right?" Sophie smiled softly, looking out the window. Sophie. "Yeah, Dad, everything's better than all right." The car pulled away from the school. But Sophie's gaze lingered on the gates, and on the humble teacher who had changed her more than she'd ever expected. Moral. True respect isn't earned through wealth or power. It's earned through kindness, humility, and the courage to see others' worth.